What about, I know you're a big fan of getting to the springs. How important do you feel that that connection with the spirit of life coming through the pure water is right now, and people really taking that on and finding out where the local springs are and heading up there?
I'd rank that in the top 1 or 2 things you could do with yourself is find your local springs and drink the waters directly from the earth and find out about the way that nature produces wild water for you, purified water for you. And there's so much energy and information coming through that water that it's actually ridiculous to even talk about tap water, filtered water, or ozonated water, any of it. It's the Kangen water system. It's almost preposterous, actually. It's one of my pet peeves, actually, when people start asking me about that stuff.
Let's talk about that information that's in the water. How does that phenomena occur? Where does that information come from, and what is it? And how can we assimilate that?
Well, it's electromagnetic. It's hydrogen. Hydrogen is able to capture the information of every single thing and carry it. So hydrogen is the origin, probably, of homeopathic effects. It's the rocks. It's the whole hydrological cycle of the earth and what that is informing us about when we drink that water. There's also the direct connection to cold, because we're talking about drinking cold spring water, and that connection to cold water is something that I think we need to reconnect to. We're always running away from cold, towards warmth, towards what we perceive as comfort, and we need to get into cold more. So that's part of the energies of raw foods, is part of the energy of spring water is turning into the cold. I also feel very strongly not only about drinking the water, but also jumping in the water. Getting into spring water is very important. And that's something that we should make a regular practice all seasons, including in the middle of the winter, to kind of toughen ourselves up to where our natural state really is, which is our ability to deal with hot and cold. And it builds up our nerve force, so we have resiliency. And I do that whenever I get to a spring, is dip in as well.
Wonderful.
It's tantamount in importance. If you've been on the fence about it, it's tantamount in importance. And once you click into that reality of spring water, all that other stuff is like, it's like silly, and you discover that and you realize it.
So we're talking about immense changes that are going on in the world, but obviously, the Earth as a living organism is going through an incredible metamorphosis and transformation as well. And by tapping into the waters, by drinking the waters, the living waters, and bathing in there and going on these adventures in nature, we're actually plugging in more directly to the latest news, like the real hot off the press downloads coming through nature, if you like, with what's going on. And you've been into this for years and years and years, going to the springs and sources of springs. What sort of shifts in consciousness, quantum awakenings, and all of this have you experienced over the past decades or more since you've been on these paths?
Well, there has been change in the springs themselves. There's been a change in flow and where they come out, and it's hard to ascertain, because I've been doing this for about 15 years, if it's just something that happens cyclically or if it actually has to do with our upcoming times in 2012 and what's going on. But I think you're onto something when you say that when you drink the spring water, you're connecting into the earth energies, and the earth changes so you can feel it more. You're more in tune with it. Otherwise, you're not out of tune with it. I don't know how somebody could be in tune with it unless maybe they were barefoot sleeping on the earth all the time. That would make sense. But other than that, you got to drink spring water fresh from the source in order to tune in and connect to what's going to happen. Also, it takes away the whole idea of the fears that we have about water. Our hydrophobia, that, I can't drink it, has bacteria in it. Oh my God, the algae in the water, it's terrible. We have to have purified water. It just takes that stuff away and clears it away, so you become an actual being that's capable of living in your environment and understanding your environment just like every other creature in the world lives.
Yeah. So we're able to get the instinctive downloads like the animals. I remember when the tsunami flooded Thailand there years ago. All the animals were seen to be, migrating away. The animals and the birds migrating away from that area hours before that thing arrived. So by plugging in, absorbing this information and these frequencies, we naturally become more and more attuned to the nature of life and the communications, the subtle communication that's going on from the Earth and also through the cosmological forces that are being carried in the water as the frequency holder, as Gabriel Cousens likes to call it. So the water from the springs is one thing, but obviously, you've been such a fan and champion of raw foods for such a long time. The structure, the natural structure of the water in hydrating fruits and vegetables. How important do you feel that in terms of people growing their own food and gardens and orchards and what have you?
Very important. That's up there in tantamount in importance as well, like spring water. To grow your own food, to consume the juices of that food and get that download of that water. The food is mostly water anyway, and we're mostly water. Now, I have gone to the extreme of not actually drinking water and just doing vegetable juices and coconut water and fruit juices to see what that's like. And there's definitely a syrupiness to plant waters that regular spring water doesn't have, and they hydrate you in different ways. And that's what I've learned from experience. And you need both. You do need both. So that's something to be aware of and to know, and also to act on. So it's good not only to eat the vegetables, but to juice them too, and to eat the fruit and juice them too, and blend food and get on more liquid food. Putting that all together is pretty much a big chunk of your diet. When you really do that, you get a lot of your diet is kind of covered, and it becomes much easier to change your patterns, because how much can you eat in a day? You can't eat that much in a day. And so if you just get on the juices, you get on the spring water, you're taking out a lot of your eating time, and then what are you going to have left? You can't eat much more than that. And so you immediately change your whole calorie intake. You get on a more calorie restricted diet, you get on a more prana rich diet, and the prana and the mana is in that water. It's in that living water in the plant. It's in the water bag. I mean, every cell on a plant is like a water bag, or it's like a water balloon. And when you puncture that water balloon, you drink that water and all the goodies that are in there, the mitochondria or whatever's in those cells, the nuclei, all the different ribosomes that are in the cells of all those plants and all those foods. That's where the action is. That's the analogy I like to use.
Nice. Let's talk about now, the challenges, the increased